coming at 7:45. Okay, got 3 more minutes. That's the announcement. We're gonna get there for later.
I really want to get rid of O'Connor.
No, I met with him today. He went over the thing. But it's not. Do we have one on the? Okay. Okay, welcome, everybody. We're going to get started. Welcome to the Town Board meeting of June 22nd, 2021. Town Clerk on a roll call.
Councilman Dennis Troy.
Present.
Councilman Tom Divany.
Here.
Councilman Paul Valentine.
Here.
Councilman Jerry Batari.
Here.
Supervisor Teresa Kenny.
Here. We're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Councilman Valentine, would you have the pleasure?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so we have a couple of announcements, then we're going to go do things a little bit different. We're going to go into our public hearing because we have to start at 7:05. So first, we want to wish, she's not here, but our friend Esther Baitla, a happy 60th birthday. It's belated. She was 65 on June 21st. She's usually here with us, but due to COVID, she's not. So she's watching at home, and she's very appreciative that we all wished her a happy birthday. July 4th, Sunday at 9 p.m., the Pearl River Parks and Activity Committee will be hosting the fireworks at the Pearl River Central Avenue Field. We're all excited about that. Public hearing on July 13th regarding performance standards. We have a public hearing on July 13th for proposed zone change for BNE Real Estate Group, the Reserve at Pearl River, located at Veterans Memorial Drive in Pearl River. And Rob, did you see we got comments from Elgin County on that?
Yes.
Okay. And then we have Motorfest, sponsored by the Orangeburg Volunteer Fire Association, which is going to be held on Saturday, July 24th, from 12 to 6 p.m. at the Dutch Hill Firehouse. Free spectator admission. So we're going to go into. We're early now. Okay, let's see. What can we do? What can we do? Do you want to do? Wait. You know what we can do? We could do the first presentation. We're going to bring up the Antonucci's for the. No, not yet. Okay, we're not bringing up the Antonucci's. Never mind. Okay. We're going to award Jeff Benchik. We find something we can do. We're going to do the second presentation. We're going to present the award to Jeff Benchik, the Director of Finance, the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting by the Government Finance Officers Association for fiscal year ended December 2019. So we're going to, Jeff, we're going to give you this nice, you're going to run out of, you only have a couple more slots, and you're going to have to get a new plaque. So, very impressive. I guess, what are we waiting on, the 2019?
Yeah, they haven't sent the tab yet.
Okay, so congratulations. Job well done. Keep up the good work. Do you need this thing? Oh. Okay, very nice. Okay. Start the workshop? I guess we can go to workshop. Okay, we're going to, sorry, we're all over the place. We can't start our hearing early, so we're going to wait a few minutes. Okay. So we'll just go to workshop, which starts at number 8. Approve the overage on some street light repairs from Albright Electric. Apparently, you have a certain number of lights that we contract for, and we went over, so we have to pay them for that. Number 9, we're accepting the resignation from Martin Ryan, a member of the Environmental Committee, and then we're appointing him with Lisa DeFisciani. So basically, the chair people of the committee are doing some cleanup on the board, on the committees. So that change was made. Number 11, we're basically, there's an employee who's been out on workers' comp for over a year, so we're having a termination pursuant to Section 71 of the Civil Service Law. Number 12, Highway approved lend assistance for the Pearl River Carnival on June 17th to the 20th. Just a little after the fact, but okay. Number 13, awarded contract to Town Hall, the HVAC maintenance and automation control to Johnson Controls. 14, approved lend assistance for the Orangeburg Fire Antique Apparatus Car Show on July 24th. And that's about it. We got a very nice light agenda. You ready? Antonucci's, come on up. They're going to make a presentation.
Good evening. My name is John Antonucci, commander of the Raymond D. Miola VFW Post 1615 of Blauville. I am joined tonight with my post adjutant, Ed Doolin, and Bob Roth, post service officer. We are here on behalf of Post 1615 to present a certificate of appreciation to Alice Carden, confidential assistant to Supervisor Kenny, for her assistance this past year and a half, helping us obtain funding to refurbish the Camp Shanks Museum. This site, located behind the Orangeburg Library, houses World War II memorabilia and is open to the public 12 to 4 on weekends from June through August. It is staffed entirely by volunteers, both military and civilian. In addition to her efforts for the museum, Ms. Carden has also supported and ensured the success of many town-wide veterans' activities. It is my pleasure to present this certificate to Allison, and it reads, Veterans of Foreign Wars of the United States, presented to Allison Carden, Town of Orangetown, for meritorious and distinguished service in furthering the aims and ideals of the Veterans of Foreign Wars of the United States.
She had no idea. She had no idea. No, I kept making up stuff. They want to make a presentation.
You're welcome.
I want to say that for myself, that these women are the backbone of my office, and it's so nice to see them get the recognition, because often they push me out front and I get the credit for it when they really did all the work. So when then Antonucci's reached out to me, I said, I love it. Please come and do it. So I hope we surprised you, Allison. I tried to keep it a surprise. I came up with all excuses why they were coming. Okay, we can open the, we'll come back to that. Can I get a motion to open the public hearing?
Moved.
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we only have one person?
You want me to give a little explanation?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so this is a proposed local law for the town to opt out of allowing cannabis retail dispensaries and on-site consumption sites within the unincorporated areas of the town. As many of you know, recently the state legislature passed an act known as Cannabis Law, Articles 4 and 6 or Cannabis Law, I should say, in the state law, which legalizes marijuana to a certain extent for folks 21 and over, and it authorizes on-site dispensaries and lounges, basically, places for what I equate it to is almost like alcohol. It has places where you can just go to buy, such as a liquor store, but it would be a cannabis store, and places where you could go to consume, such as a bar, and again, it will be cannabis. For this year only, for 2021, municipalities can opt out and decide not to allow these stores in the municipality. The municipality could adopt regulations that allow these places to come in and put them in certain zones, but the only time that the municipalities can opt out is this year, before December 31st, 2021. If the municipality does not do that, it can never opt out, and they're always allowed. As I've advised this in other municipalities, the municipality can always opt back in at some time in the future, but the opportunity to opt out is only this year. So that's why I recommend adopting this law just for the purpose of maintaining status quo, because I was looking up before I came up here, there's going to be appointed a Cannabis Control Board, CCB, and again, think State Liquor Authority, SLA, almost the equivalent. I was just reading, that has not even been appointed. There's no executive director that's been appointed, so
No rules.
there's no rules or regulations that anybody knows about right now. So at a minimum, it's about 18 months out before one of these places could open in any event. So again, my recommendation, purely from a legal perspective, is to adopt this now, wait and see what happens with the Cannabis Control Board, look at the regulations. Once the town has a better idea of what the impact that these types of establishments will have on the town, it'd be in better position to decide where they might, if they decide to allow them, where they might go. But again, the biggest thing I say is, even if you're the biggest fan of these, the cannabis stores and the on-site premises places, the prudent thing would be to opt out until we know more about it, because you can only opt out this year, and you would miss an opportunity if you didn't. So that's the cannabis law in a nutshell.
Okay, well, I guess we can listen to comments, and then if anyone wants to speak again. Okay, so we have Michael Mandel signed up.
Yes, good evening, Supervisor Kenny, members of the Town Board. I'm Michael Mandel, resident of Pearl River. I am speaking tonight in support of the resolution to opt out from allowing cannabis retail dispensaries and on-site consumption locations in the unincorporated areas of this town. The placing of these locations in our town gives the impression to young adults and teenagers that it's okay to use marijuana. This is in direct conflict with the efforts of parents and the schools to reduce its use through educational programs. These programs the schools are using and others is based upon several reasons. First, the National Institute of Drug Abuse, the NIDA, states that the long-term effects of marijuana use on teenagers results in reductions in memory, thinking, and learning functions, as well as a decrease in IQ. Second, the NIDA writes that some research suggests that use is likely to precede the use of illicit substances such as cocaine, marijuana, heroin, methamphetamine, and fentanyl. And in all my years involved with narcotics enforcement, I never met an addict that did not start with marijuana. It is a gateway drug, and we should always remember that. The NIDA found that most common illegal drugs involved in the vehicle fatalities was marijuana. While we're trying to reduce drunk or impaired driving by our youth, this just adds to the problem. Though it will become illegal in New York State, one of the many promises that they make that it will decrease or eliminate the illegal sales of marijuana, and this is not the reality of life. If you can buy marijuana for less from an illegal dealer, why would you buy it from the state and pay the taxes that go along with it? Save money, you can buy more. If individuals want to buy and use marijuana, let them go somewhere else. Our duty is to protect our children. We should set the example for the next generation by opting out of this program. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody else want to speak that did not sign up? Eileen, when you go first, then Barbara, you go next.
I feel like this is going to pop me in the face. Hi, good morning. Good morning. Good evening, members of the board. I also speak in support of the local law to opt out of the adult cannabis marijuana retail locations on tonight's agenda. It's a known fact that marijuana is the gateway drug that leads to more powerful drug use. The high-potency pot available on now leads to addiction, psychosis, and even suicide. In 1 year, over 90,000, the past year has seen over 90,000 suicides, which are attributed to drug use. Tragically, these deaths have occurred among our local population as recently as this week. The New Jersey towns of Emerson, Hillsdale, and Montville have voted to prohibit all sales of classes of marijuana and related businesses from opening locally, citing a variety of reasons. Hopefully, our Otapan, Norwood, and Northfield will also follow suit. It's a sad comment on our culture when one has to smoke weed to get high or feel good. On a personal level, I'm sure that there's not anybody who's listening to this show tonight, program tonight, or in the audience hasn't seen some effects of a family member on drugs. It is absolutely devastating. It never goes away until that person really wants to get better. And even when they want to get better, it's just like being addicted to alcohol. It's a steady program of support groups. I personally know people who have suffered terrible, terrible consequences. They've seen sons and daughters die of drug addiction, and that's becoming a common norm in our country. When Mike mentioned something about the incorporated areas, will this law also go in effect in the unincorporated areas?
Villages can make those decisions for themselves.
It goes in effect in the unincorporated areas.
So now you can.
But not
come
in
up
the
and make their own
incorporated.
The
decision.
villages can make their own choice.
Right, right. So it's a good thing. I hope it will keep somebody from being on the road, high on marijuana, talking on the telephone. When you drive on the roads today, you almost take your life in your hands because people are so aggressively driving, or they're talking on the phone, or they're just not paying attention. But anyway, hopefully this will help. If anybody is out there and supports this, I hope they call you tonight and say it's a start and it's a good thing. Thank you.
Barbara?
Yeah, I support any law that would prevent legal selling or use of marijuana within as much of the town as you can do. There's a restaurant on 304, and there's a sign in the back, and it says, "There's no hope in dope." And then it has pictures of people who've died who had frequented that restaurant and that the owner knows. And I, did a little bit of research, and I know some stuff as being a school nurse. I'm aware that some people think it's harmless, but people do get hospitalized in emergency room from progressive or excessive use of marijuana-type substances, different forms of marijuana. It is absolutely a gateway drug. Information out of Colorado about the overall productivity and things like that within the state since the legalization of marijuana shows that there have been significant problems. Like any drug, it does affect your mind. And therefore, your decision-making, all your driving, any activities like that are affected. And, you know, the driving is certainly a big issue. And, you know, I am appalled that our state, as a method of solving budget problems, would do something that's really not good for the young people of the state and even the young adults of the state and the state as an overall. So, and I also was surprised when I was researching, I think it was the NIH, but it did say that although not as addictive as, say, heroin, it can become addictive and sometimes difficult to stop the use. So, and as a school nurse, you know, I saw problems. So I wanted to ask you to do all you can to put the needs of the residents of the town before any budgetary benefit that would come from this. I just think that's a trend that's happening in New York State that really is shameful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Does anybody else want to speak that has not had a chance to speak?
Good evening. My name's Jim Enright. I live in Pearl River. I've had 47 years of experience working in Rockland County high schools before I retired and saw an awful lot of damage done by drugs and support very much the position that's being proposed tonight. My question would be, if this is only going to take effect until the end of the year, are there things that the town board can do to get prepared for what happens as the next step, or is that kind of unknown territory at this point?
Because I think there's a misunderstanding.
Right, yeah, no, this law has to be adopted by the end of the year, so that's happening tonight. What I'm saying is if this were not adopted by December 31st of this year, it could never be adopted.
Okay.
So, and that's one of the reasons, the point you're bringing up, to see, you know, what the future may hold in terms of what the Cannabis Control Board comes up with. But yes, there are regulations that the town could impose if this were not adopted. But again, that's why it's.
But I think the misunderstanding is that he thinks it just goes to the end of the year.
No.
This is-
It's goes forward. It's going forward.
It goes forward until a board up here changes their mind. And
Until the
undoes it.
board changes it. That's good to hear.
Until the board opts back in.
That's why I said a board. This-
Okay. Thank you very much.
Anybody else want to speak? Go ahead, come on up.
Yes, my name is Barbara Enright, and I live in Pearl River. I'm a retired registered nurse, 47 years, 23 of which I spent taking care of people that are chemically dependent, alcoholic, mentally ill, chemically addicted. And my concern is that 15 years ago, Rockland County was in a much different position than it is now. 15 years ago, Rockland County was considered one of the top 5 places in the United States for people to access resource for mental illness and chemical dependency. That is no longer the issue for us. 2 years ago, the Office of Mental Health at Pomona was closed, the clinic was closed, and our services are contracted with Westchester County Mental Health. That has meant a tremendous decrease in the detox and rehab beds available to us, and a tremendous decrease in the day treatment programs and emotional support. So the horse is out of the barn. The horse is out of the barn. I don't think there's anything we can do. Cannabis is legal, but I think we really need to be very, very, very careful about the decisions that we make regarding this, and I totally support your recommendation tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else want to speak on this particular public hearing? No, I got a motion to close by Dennis Troy.
Second.
All in favor? I'm just gonna, I mean, just to follow up, I think it's all been said. But basically, if you were to look, and I'm looking right at New York State's website, this is their quote: "Please be aware, before the OCM, which is the Office of Cannabis Manager, can issue adult use cannabis licenses, several foundational tasks will need to be completed, including appointing the Cannabis Control Board, issuing and adopting regulations, hiring, training OCM staff, and creating the process for issuing, accepting, and awarding licenses," none of which has been done. They're saying at this point that, if at all, it'd be ready for sale sometime in 2023, probably the earliest. So we're being asked to make a decision now on something that we don't even have an idea what it's going to look like. So I think any municipality, based on that alone, forgetting your thoughts about whether it should be legal or not, or sold, I think it's the prudent thing to do as a government agent. So that's part of it. The other thing is to be very clear, people can still smoke it in Orangetown. We can't, I don't want anyone to think, we just are not allowing the sale, as it was explained, either to go in as a social place or buy it. So they can walk down Central Avenue and smoke it. If they can smoke a cigarette, they can smoke marijuana. So I don't want that to be some people mistake to think we're banning marijuana. We don't have that ability. So that's all I want to say.
I agree with Teresa. It is a prudent thing to do. Albany can't balance a budget, so they decide to legalize marijuana. And they'll put a 13% excise tax on it, but 9% of that's going to Albany. So they want you to sell and open up these marijuana shops, but they're taking all the money, and they're not going to deal with the enforcement, the police officers that have to be hired, the training for those police officers now to deal with people who are driving while they're under the influence of marijuana. And more importantly, it doesn't send a great message to our children that, we can't stop it from being legalized, but we can stop it from being sold in the town of Orangetown. And as a father of 2 young children, I don't want them walking down Central Avenue in Pearl River or anywhere else in Orangetown and seeing a place where you can buy marijuana. Again, they're going to be able to buy it when they're 21, but we shouldn't be selling it in the town of Orangetown.
Anybody? Good. Okay. Okay, very good. Then we will go on to...
Just one procedural issue. I just want you to mention in the resolution, it is subject to a permissive referendum.
Yes.
Which is an important part of the law.
Okay, so now we're going on to number 3, adopting the local law, which again is subject to permissive referendum. So for anybody who basically have to get a petition together, is that what that means? So
Right. If somebody were to get a petition with the appropriate amount of signatures, it would be put to a vote. There's time frames on that, and I'll be speaking with Rosanna, the town clerk, about the proper notices that have to go out for that. But it is important that that's a part of the law that we included as part of the adoption of the resolution.
Okay, so I guess I'll just read one of the whereases here. So whereas the board has determined, given among other things the relative close proximity of various commercial locations within which cannabis establishments might be located to parks, schools, churches, and residential zones throughout the town, coupled further with the yet unresolved issues addressing enforcement and other guidelines related to cannabis sale and use, impeding the town's ability, I'm having problems here, to adopt time? Is that my
Adopt time,
Oh, okay. Manner and place regulations, okay, I have to keep going, which remain within its purview under the law, including the option to timely opt out, that at the current time it would not be in the interest of the town residents to allow retail sales and on-site consumption establishments within the town. So now therefore resolved, the town board hereby adopts a local law, basically codifying the town board's intent to opt out from allowing cannabis retail dispensaries and on-site consumption sites within the unincorporated areas of the town, and request that the New York State Cannabis Control Board prohibit such retail dispensaries and on-site consumption sites within the town. So, this resolution is subject to permissive referendum. I said it to start. I mean, how many times I got to say it? Okay, so on that, can I get a motion? Okay, Dennis, and Jerry second. All in favor? Aye. Okay. Now, okay. You want to go through before the auditors? You want to just get through them?
Are we doing public comment first, or what are we doing?
No, we're all over the place. What do you think? Open public, should we do
That's up
public
to you.
comment?
Whatever you want. Maybe people are here for that.
They get the, okay. So, then we're going to go back and open, I'm all over the place here. We're all over the place. Okay, so we're at number 6, open public comment portion. Okay, motion? Jerry Batari, second.
Second.
Tom Divany, all in favor? Aye. Okay. So I've signed up here Michelle Hamilton. And I'll just remind everybody you have 3 minutes to speak.
Okay. Good evening. Supervisor Kenny, members of the town board. I am Michelle Hamilton. I'm a resident of Orangetown. I'm here with the Orangetown, a few members of the Orangetown subcommittee of the Rockland People's Panel on Policing, the RPPP. We are an open participatory group. Our leadership is Black, Indigenous, people of color, and we are dedicated to working toward racial justice through police reform. We are a diverse coalition of grassroots activists. We were formed in response to the murder of George Floyd and Executive Order 203. Governor Cuomo's action was prompted, as his order notes, quote, by a number of incidents involving the police that have resulted in the deaths of unarmed civilians, predominantly Black and African American men. And these have undermined the public's confidence and trust in our system of law enforcement and criminal justice. Now that reports have been submitted to the governor, we believe it is time to make the promises of reform a reality. We would like to acknowledge the attention that Supervisor Kenny has given to the issue. We note that she attended all 3 of the public hearings hosted by the RPPP. And we also recognize Supervisor Kenny and Chief Butterworth's responsiveness to our requests for information. We have analyzed the Orangetown Police Reform Report, which was approved by the town board and submitted to the governor, and we find several areas of common ground with our people's report on police reform. Our purpose here tonight is to signal our desire to work with you in these areas of agreement in order to build a policing practice that can earn the trust of the entire Orangetown community, inclusive of our residents who are Black, Brown, Latino, Asian Pacific Islander, or Indigenous. We believe that such reforms will benefit not only our diverse community, but law enforcement as well, by helping to restore the bonds of trust and cooperation that are essential to effective policing, free from bias or brutality. And tonight we present 3 points of agreement which represent potential opportunities to work together on police reform in Orangetown.
Thank you.
That's my cue for the next 3 minutes. I'm Jim Ullman. I live in Pearl River. I've lived there almost 50 years. So I'm going to continue what Michelle started, the statement. The following points of agreement. Oh, and thank you, Town Board, for listening to us. The following points of agreement represent potential opportunities to work together on police reform in Orangetown. First, on page 17 of the town report, it states that the town board should consider establishing a new town committee to continue the work that this committee and Governor Cuomo's executive order have started. Similarly, the RPPP report calls for enact real civilian oversight on policing in our county. Therefore, we call on Orangetown to work with us to establish a civilian review board which would operate independently of the town officials and the police department and would have effective oversight power. We commit to work with you to make this a reality insofar as possible. Second point, on page 15 of the town report, it states that the town of Orangetown also recommends and supports the creation of a 311 type call center in Rockland County, which allows the caller to direct their call away from a police response and toward a licensed mental health professional response. Similarly, the RPPP report outlines the inadequacies of Rockland's current system for responding to mental health crises and calls for a countywide mental health support network along the lines of the successful CAHOOTS, which stands for Crisis Assistance Helping Out on the Streets model. That term is familiar to you from your own report, so I'll just call it CAHOOTS in the following remarks. We believe a first step would be for the Orangetown Police Department to send all its officers to crisis intervention training with a specifically anti-racist focus. Rockland County's Department of Mental Health is transitioning to being the crisis intervention training provider for Rockland County, historically provided by Westchester. The Rockland County Mental Health will offer crisis intervention training to all police departments of Rockland County if they make their officers available. The Rockland County Department of Mental Health can also provide one-day training in mental health first aid to all police officers. We have liaisoned with mental health professionals and can help you arrange this. We note that the federal government has established a 988 mental health hotline scheduled for July 2022.
You can finish your, if you're in the middle of a sentence, you can finish your sentence.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, you, Teresa.
Just don't make it a very run-on sentence.
No,
okay?
all right, I'll try to. This includes a call center, a mobile crisis team, and a crisis intervention center. So that's happening on the federal level, and we'll help put you in touch with that if needed. We ask the Orangetown Town Board to stand with us in pressing the county government to establish a CAHOOTS-type system in Rockland County. This is an innovative program which could save the lives of residents in crisis while reducing risk to officers. And the third point, fairly short, on page 10, your report makes a commitment to increase Orangetown Police Department diversity training, which we take to mean anti-bias training. As the RPP report notes, black people, despite being only 13% of the county's population, make up 34% of the arrests. Latinx people make up 18% of the population, yet account for 32% of arrests. Furthermore, these racial disparities, this is from your report, in policing are profound and the gap is widening. So to that end, we recommend, based on extensive research into bias in policing and police culture, that the proposed diversity training be specifically anti-racist in focus, that it be mandatory
Mr.
for
Ullman,
all,
I'm going to have to just, because we do.
for all officers,
we have
and that
other
it
things.
be
I'm going to have to take it away from the women if you keep going, so.
that it be annual rather than one and done. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you. Oh, they're not speaking. Oh, I'm just going to take it away from them. Okay. Michelle, is that basically what you had sent an email with this? Is that the same? Okay, so I did share it with the board. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Anybody else want to speak that did not sign up for the public portion? Mike? This is the general, yeah. This is.
Michael Mandel for the record again. I just want to thank the Highway Department for assisting us with the carnival that helps pay for the fireworks by supplying barriers and receptacles. And for the 4th of July, fireworks go off a little after 9. However, at 7 o'clock, the band will start playing, so there'll be music there. If anybody's interested, come on out, have a good evening, and thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks. Ladies, you can take your turn.
I just wanted to comment on the people that just spoke recently. I come from a cop family and from New York City, and I have to say that in Orangetown, I've always had a good response from the police department. I think we can be very proud of the Orangetown Police Department. I don't see any headlines ever made about a particular officer or the department in general. I think the trend today is to look down upon the police department and look into their little themselves, nitpick them. But when a police officer goes out to a case where someone has a mental problem, I'm sure it's very scary for them, too. And I'm sure a lot of these individuals who are in need of mental care have started somewhere on the drug issue. They somehow or another, their life took the wrong steps, and they became the individual they are at that moment. So I can only speak and say that whatever this Civilian Review Board, I think, is a scary thing to go with. I think the police department now has sergeants and captains to look into the police. And if there's a problem, that individual has to be addressed. But we see what's happening in New York City with defund the police. I hope we never see that here. I complain often about the police budget, but I don't want to see it defunded. I don't want that trend that's happening in New York City and throughout this country to take place here in Orangetown. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I'm just really speaking in response to this lady who just spoke. I'm Rena Finkelstein. I live in Orangetown in Piermont, and I'm a member, I'm past president of NAMI Rockland. I've been very involved with mental health. I'm also a member of RPPP and a member of the Rockland Coalition to End the New Jim Crow Mental Health Committee. Mental health has been my major passion. And for many years, I was president of NAMI Rockland for 30 years. And I just want to say that in no way are we denigrating some of the good work that is done by the police department. I just attended a workshop today with a police officer, not from Orangetown, from Clarkstown, and brought up this question of having specialists, people who are trained in responding to police crisis, mental health people, and Cahoots also has paramedic, and the behavioral health response team in Rockland also has a paramedic and a mental health professional, although we're working on trying to get lots of improvements in that right now. But and actually he said that they have no objection really to it. They feel it would ease the burden of the police officers so that they can concentrate on what the things that they really need to do in stopping crime, real crimes, and in protecting the citizens. And whereas, so that I just want to respond that we're not looking to, I don't feel we need to defund the police, and we do need to build up our mental health services. And we're looking also to the state and the federal government. 988 law is going into effect nationally in July of 22, and it was just passed in the New York State Assembly as well, the framework for 988. And so the future will be that hopefully as this goes into effect, more and more people will be calling for trained specialists to respond to crisis intervention for people with substance abuse and behavioral health issues. So thank you.
Thank you. Barbara, did you want to speak?
This is the open?
Yeah.
Okay. First, I want to ask you to consider perhaps having the meetings a little later. Anybody who tries to make dinner for their family has trouble getting here on time, and I think for people who work in the city, it's impossible to come because, I know my daughter used to work in the city. She went at 7 in the morning. She came home at 7 at night. She couldn't, there's no way, and there are other people I know who it's a bigger problem. That's the first thing I want to say. The second thing I want to say is that, again, I'm just going to mention as planning goes forward for the town, and I see there's a public hearing on a new project. I think it's along Orangeburg Road or Veterans Memorial there, that we should consider primarily that development like this, we should keep in mind the needs of the residents of the town. I was speaking about this, and somebody quietly came and said to me, do you know that a large portion of the people in the senior housing, which is very upscale and unaffordable for most people in my neighborhood, are from New Jersey. So I just think that's something people should be aware of. And finally, I wanted to say, I support a program that helps people with mental health, and I think probably it is a good idea for police to better learn how to deal with that. I know there's a lot of prejudice against people with mental health issues. I also know that sometimes it's related to drugs, and it can be very dangerous. I know, I'm a nurse, so I know also about suicide and the fact that, please God, it never comes into place that if someone's trying to commit suicide, it's legal for them to do there, and nobody can go and help them and try and dissuade them. I think many of us in our own lives have needed a psychiatrist. I know after my son passed away, that was the case with me. And I very much appreciate that this population be treated kindly, that appropriate services be provided for them, and that we all do it in a way that keeps the police officers safe as well, and teach them how to look at these people with kindness and compassion. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that has not had an opportunity to speak, want to speak? Okay, going once, going twice. Move to close. Dennis Troy. Tom Divany second. All in favor? Aye. Okay, so this is our choice here. We have Mike Zarin's here. We can go into executive session, or we can let the auditors. Should we do them first? Let the auditors go? Okay, come on up. You won.
Good evening. Honorable Town Supervisor, council members of the Town Board. My name is Nick DeSantis, and I'm a partner with the firm of PKF O'Connor Davies. And with me this evening is my partner, Rob Danielle, who actually conducted the audit of the town. And this evening, we're here to present to you our report on the town's audit. It's not the audit itself, but what we've done is we've compiled information from the audit report to present to you. The audit is a bit delayed because the Housing Authority, which is a component unit of the town's financial report, has not yet been released to us. So at this point, we don't think that the Housing Authority will affect the results of our audit, and we've presented all the financial information that relates to the town's finance in the separate booklet. We anticipate that once we get that audit, we're going to be able to issue an unmodified opinion, which is known as a clean opinion. So it's just a matter of getting that audit and compiling it into the financial statements.
As the liaison to the Housing Authority, I was on the phone yesterday with Jeff Bensick, also Mamie Freeman, who has is the management company that runs the Housing Authority, and also our auditor. And the auditor, I guess, was very frustrated that he didn't have the right information from the management authority. And there's been some issues with their accountant. They have a new accountant in the last 2 years that is not quite up to par. But we're supposed to have everything by tomorrow. So.
Yeah, and as soon as we get it, we'll turn it around quite quickly. I just want to point out that the town is not responsible financially for the Housing Authority. It's self-sustaining in its operation. So if you look at page 2 of that handout, you'll see that these are all the things that will be included in the audit report, which is a comparison of the budget to the actual for the revenues, the expenditures. We also will provide to you a fund balance analysis of 5-year comparison in this booklet. We also speak to the general fund, the town outside villages fund, and we also have information in this booklet on your other funds, your sewer, your highway, your debt service, your capital projects, your golf courses, and of course your internal service funds. So what I'm going to do is skip over to page 5 and the pages are numbered in the bottom left-hand corner. So we're going to speak first to the general fund. This is your primary operating fund for the town, and your total revenues were budgeted at $14 million. You collected almost $13.7 million, so you were just short by about $400,000 on your overall revenues. But the good news is you budgeted a little over $15 million for expenditures, and you only spent 13.8, so you underspent the budget by 1.2, thereby creating a budget surplus, which in that extreme column on the right, the third number down from the top, $879,000, which actually was your budget surplus in the in your general fund. So that's the good news. The good news is that you were able to weather in your townwide funds, both the general fund and the townwide fund. You were able to weather the pandemic and absorb any reductions that may have found their way to you by way of parks recreation, programs that were either restrained or eliminated during the pandemic for certain periods of time, as well as licenses and permits. So Rob is going to take you through some of the details that begin on page 6. Again, as I said, this information is extrapolated from the actual audit report, so it's the same information that would be in that report. Rob?
All right. Thank you, Nick. All right, so on page 6 and 7, Nick gave you the high-level variances. These are more detailed. The top on page 6, you can see that your revenues fell a little bit short, about $376,000, but a lot of it is due to what we call here departmental income, which records your youth programs, and because of COVID, most of those programs were canceled, so that was expected that you probably wouldn't reach your target. Some of the other areas, license and permits, your building permits, again, some of that construction was halted, so you didn't reach your target, but we expect that to kind of catch up in 2021. State aid, good news is you did receive a grant from the Dormitory Authority where you were able to purchase 6 police vehicles. So you didn't anticipate about $250,000 in state funding that you did receive, and you were able to do that.
Rob, I just wanted to mention one thing. On the non-property tax line, which is the third line from the top in that column, you'll see that you budgeted $2,550,000. You actually took in $2,576,000. 1.8 of that is the distribution from the county of sales tax. And the comparison to 2019, in 2019, the county distributed 1.9. So there may be a potential for recovery of that under the ARP program, that $100,000 difference between 2019 and 2020, that 1.8. But nevertheless, even though there was a pandemic, your conservative budgeting of your anticipated revenues when you adopted the budget proved very fruitful to you in 2020 with the pandemic. I mean, that's the point I'm trying to stress, that you've been very conservative in your approach. And similarly, under the state aid, if we look under the state aid, you see 1.6 you budgeted, you realized a little bit more than $2 million. 430,000. You collected what, $2 million
That's actually mortgage
on
tax.
mortgage tax.
Yeah.
So it was and in 19 you only collected, not only, but you collected $1.5 million. So you did somewhere between $400,000 and $500,000 better during 2020 in mortgage tax. Again, conservative approach to your budgeting, and also obviously the demand for housing and refinancing mortgages at low interest rates. Rob?
Yeah, so I'm sorry, I did want to point out, the state aid wasn't for the purchase of the vehicles. It was your mortgage tax revenues. Because interest rates were so low, there was a lot of activity, and you were able to generate more than you anticipated. The state aid funding for the police cars is in another fund, which we'll talk about in a second. Page 7 is the expense side. So although you came a little bit short on your revenues, there were savings on the expense side to the tune of $1.2 million. Mostly we consolidate this. So in the area of general government support, that includes your departments, the town attorney, assessors, less overtime, was needed because of COVID-19, and you had some budgeted vacancies. And as far as the line that says Culture and Rec, where you had a $500,000 savings, again, you didn't generate the revenue for the youth programs, but you also had, expenditure savings because there were, because the programs were closed due to.
Yeah, so by way of just comparison, you don't see it here, but for culture and recreation in 19, you expended 2.4 and you expended 1.7 in 2020. So $700,000 difference to offset, obviously, the loss of revenue and the management of pandemic for the safety of your residents. If we go to page 8, we've given you the 5-year history on the fund balance. Now, fund balance, I just want to, there's an explanation in the financial statements as to the categories of fund balance. But briefly, I will tell you that you have 4 categories shown here. You have non-spendable, which basically is exactly what it is. It's fund balance, equity, but you've already prepaid certain things, so you don't have the cash. So you can't re-spend it cash-wise. You have restricted, which is restricted by outside parties for law enforcement. Typically, that happens when your police department participates with the district attorney or the federal government on catching the bad guys, and you confiscate goods and assets. The assign usually is the town board's action, where you designate funds for certain things, but also by accounting your purchase orders that have been issued during 2020 but haven't been liquidated for whatever the reasons, carry over into 2021. So those are assigned funds from the 2020 budget that roll over to the 2021 budget. The subsequent year's expenditure is the amount of monies you used out of your 2020 equity to balance your 21 budget. In this particular case, it's the $700,000 that you appropriated from when you adopted your 2021 budget. And as you can see, that's significantly lower than you used in the 2019 year. And then, of course, the unassigned is the money that you can use for future budgets or future projects that you may want to do. There's no encumbrance against that money. There's no commitments against those monies. So if we look at that, if we look at the unassigned fund balance, you hit a high in 2017 of $7 million, and it fell down to, in 2018, to $6 million, and then it's stable now at just about $5 million, a little less than $5 million. So good financing. You got through the pandemic. That's the good news. And you do have a significant amount of fund balance that you can use for unexpected things that occur that may not have been anticipated when you adopted your budget, or what you can use to help balance future budgets. Rob?
Yeah. So if we skip to page 10 and 11, you do operate a town outside village fund for the police and then other. If we look at page 11, you can see that those revenues came in $371,000 better than you anticipated. And here's where you actually received the $250,000 grant to buy 6 police vehicles. And that's the majority of the revenue overage. The good news is on the expense side, you were able to save almost $900,000, again, in the area of public safety, where you had some retirements that you didn't anticipate, and there was also some effects of the COVID pandemic. So overall, your revenues exceeded expenditures by $1.1 million. You anticipated using $114,000, so you had a budget surplus of around $1.2 million. So the police fund did very well considering the pandemic.
You added to fund balance as a result of 2020.
Page 12 is the town outside other. Again, you can see here you had some revenue shortages, again, in the area of your building permits, where, as I mentioned before, things were halted. Although permits were processed, there wasn't much activity for a period of time. That fell short about $313,000. And really some of the other categories, obviously you didn't reach your target with use of money in properties, your interest. As you know, the interest rates are at an all-time low, so you weren't able to generate that. However, the good news is on the expense side, again, due to the pandemic, you were able to save about $333,000 on the expense side. So although you see that your expenses exceeded your revenues, you anticipated using about $850,000. You only really had to use $765,000. So from our standpoint, that's almost a break even. So from a budgetary standpoint, you were about $90,000 better than you anticipated. That fund balance is at $1.2 million. So you could talk about page 13.
Yeah,
is
page 13 is
combined.
basically the same spiel that I just gave you about the town's general fund. But the important thing is if you look at the 2020 year, you'll see that the total assigned fund balance is $2.3 million. And if you look at the fourth number up from the bottom on 2020, you'll see that you used $300,000 to balance the Town Outside Villages budgets when you adopted it, and you used less money than you used in the preceding year when you needed $800,000 to balance that budget.
I'm going to skip to page 15 very quickly. Again, you do operate other funds. Sewer fund had a pretty good year. You had revenues that exceeded expenditures by over $782,000, and you do have a fund balance of $1.3 million. You operate a highway fund, part-town and town-wide. Again, those revenues came in better than you anticipated by $461,000, and you do have a fund balance of $2.6 million. You are utilizing about $300,000 to balance the current budget you're in, the 2021 budget. You have a debt service fund where when you issue bonds and you get premiums, certain funds go in there, and those monies can be used in future budgets. You do have a fund balance there of $2.6 million. You are utilizing $700,000 in the current year, 2021. And then lastly, you have an active capital projects fund. There's probably 30 or so active projects. You did issue about $9 million in bonds in 2020, and that all hasn't been spent yet. So you have about a little over $11 million in that fund balance.
And we'll show you some of the capital projects in the debt. But now I'm at my favorite fund, the golf courses. And I know this is Jeff's favorite spot. But if we turn to page 17, we can see your greens fees last year went from almost $1.6 million to $1.9 million. So you collected $245,000 more at Blue Hill, and you can see if you look down the middle of the page, income from operations, $274,000. So you did exceptionally well last year on the golf course, and I'm told that this year is you're having similar success thus far. And if you look at Broadacres, my favorite 9-hole course, because that's where I got my hole-in-one.
And that's on page 19.
And that's on page 19. You also had a income from operations. There's a typographical error there, if you look on that line.
Yeah, it should say income.
It should say income from operations, not a loss. We're so used to having a loss at Broadacres that we just automatically roll forward.
It's actually it's comparative.
That's not
so.
what happened in 2020.
Right.
No, you came up with $205,000 better from operations, and overall, I mean, the golf courses obviously is a big turnaround, and they're managed very well. On page 20, your workers' compensation fund, even though it reflects a deficit, you'll notice that the third number up from the 2020 column says claims payable, but they're non-current. Those are actuarially determined items, and they haven't been dispersed by cash. They're just estimates based upon the liabilities that you've incurred. So as long as the claims payable is higher than the deficit, you're fine. You don't have a cash deficit. You can look up above. You have $1.1 million in cash in that fund. And you also have your debt fund, which I just wanted to show you on page 24, which has the outstanding bonds and all their maturities. and you can see the amount outstanding at December 31st, 2020, $66 million worth of debt, which is a very low amount of debt considering your aggregate budgets among all your funds, your general fund, your town outside fund, your sewer fund, your water, and the interest rates that are reflected on it.
Double A rate.
And you have a AA2 rating, bond rating. So you're doing very, very well with your credit agency. So all in all, I think it's fair to say that the town is in good financial condition. You weathered the pandemic. I know you weathered the recession in 2008 as well. So the conservative budget practices has enabled you to react to changes in the general economy in this certain region.
And they also prepare the CAFR program, which is...
Right, you participate in the Comprehensive Annual Financial Report with the Government Finance Officers Association. You've been awarded that Certificate of Achievement for your disclosures and financial reporting. That's a kudo for your finance director and his team, as well as the town board that, provides the resources for them to prepare the financial statements in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles and government accounting standards. So, again, good praise when it comes to that as well.
Thank you. Anybody got questions? No? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Should we zip through and then go to executive session? Should we, you might as well. Mike Zarin's here. Should we just zip through the agenda and then go to executive session? Okay, okay. Then we're just going to zip through here. Okay, so we're moving on to, where was I? I'm all confused here. Did we? Oh, we're at 8. I forgot. Did we do this already? I don't even remember. Okay. Number 8, can I get a motion to approve the overage for the streetlight repairs to Albright Electric? Tom Devaney, second. Paul Valentine, all in favor? Aye. Accept the resignation of Martin Ryan as a member of the Environmental Committee effective June 22nd. Motion? Dennis Troy made, second. Jerry Batari, all in favor? Aye. Appoint Lisa Deficiani to the member of the Orangetown Environmental Committee effective June 23rd. A motion? Jerry Batari, second. I'll second it. All in favor? Aye. Okay. Termination by reason of a disability resulting from occupational injury, Civil Service Law, Section 71 of employee number 1330. Can I get a motion? I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor? Okay. Approve lend assistance to the 2021 Pearl River Carnival from June 17th to June 20th. Motion? Jerry Batari, second. Dennis Troy, all in favor? Aye. Award the contract to the Town Hall HVAC maintenance and automation control to Johnston Controls. Motion? Paul Valentine, second. Tom Divany, all in favor? Aye. Approve lend assistance to the Orangeburg Fire Antique Apparatus Car Show on July 24, 2021. Motion?
I'll make a motion.
Paul Valentine, second. Jerry Batari, all in favor? On the audit? Oh, we dropped one?
Okay, the audit for tonight's meeting consists of 3 warrants for a total of $1.3 million. The first warrant had 51 vouchers for $948,000. Items of interest, number 2, CSEA Employee Benefit Fund, $29,000 for CSEA Dental Benefits. Number 4, NYPA, $21,000 for the streetlight contract. Number 5, Department of Civil Service, $735,000 for healthcare benefits. The second warrant had 2 vouchers for $4,600 and was for golf cart leases. The third warrant had 166 vouchers for $345,000. Items of interest, number 2, Capasso, $74,000 for recycling. Number 4, Goosetown, $31,000 for outfitting police cars and leases. Number 8, Sprague, $22,000 for fuel. And number 9, the State Comptroller, $29,000 for justice fines. Any questions on the audit?
Okay. Can I get a motion to accept the audit? Dennis Troy? Jerry Batari, all in favor? Aye. Okay, so we're going to go into executive session, but you're saying we're coming back and we're going to, I don't know. We had so many plans, I don't know what plan we're on. Okay.
Come back out to,
So we're going to come out. Okay.
you may be taking your vote.
I don't think so, but, okay.
Unlikely,
Unlikely. Okay. Okay, so can I get a motion to go into executive session? Tom Divany, second. Paul Valentine? All in favor? Aye. Okay. I guess we'll have some kind of agenda between now and then. Do I need to say?
Because otherwise it was 3 weeks out.
Yeah, we have otherwise we have 3 weeks to a meeting, and we have a couple of things we've got to take care of. Okay, that's it, right? I just have to do the adjournments. We
Yep.
have some adjournments. We're
So
gonna,
that will be posted and everything, that will meet everything, so we're good for
yeah,
next week,
for
right?
next week, 29th, 7 PM.
Okay.
Okay, and we are adjourning in memory of Diane Morrison, a resident of Blauvelt, Teresa O'Brien, a resident of Pearl River, and John Roach, a resident of Pearl River. Anybody else have anything?
And it's McAndrew.
Oh, yeah, sorry, that's Catherine McAndrew. K-A-T-H-Y.
We'll get it, we'll make sure we get it right. Catherine McAndrew, they got that. We'll make sure we get it spelled right. Okay.
McAndrew. Mike McAndrew's her son. He does live in Blowout, but they're originally from Pearl River.
Okay, right, motion to close? Okay, motion to adjourn,
The
close, whatever.
brother-in-law
Okay.
was a lieutenant for Orangetown.
Dennis made a motion,
Second.
and Tom Davini second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. What do you want?